The church smelled of lilies and damp wood. My black dress clung to my skin, as though the fabric carried the weight of grief itself. Every time someone leaned close to murmur, "I'm so sorry for your loss," I nodded politely. But inside, my chest was hollow. My husband was gone. Or at least, that's what I thought. As the pastor's words blurred into a steady hum, my phone buzzed inside my purse. I almost ignored it. Answering calls during a funeral felt unthinkable, but something in me reached for it. I slipped out into the corridor, where the quiet was thick and pressing. "Mrs. Carter?" a woman's crisp voice asked. "This is Rosewood Grand Hotel. Just confirming. You'll be here shortly. Your husband has already arrived. He asked for the Imperial Suite, as usual." My hand went numb, the phone nearly sliding from my grip. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" My voice cracked in the empty hallway. "Yes, ma'am. Your husband arrived 20 minutes ago with a guest. He signed in under your account, and we assumed you'd be joining them soon. Shall we send up the champagne now or wait until you arrive?" I stared at the floor tiles, my stomach twisting as if the ground itself had shifted. My husband, the man I had just buried, the man everyone was grieving inside that church. But according to this hotel, he was very much alive. I swallowed hard, pressing my back to the wall to steady myself. The air felt suddenly thin, the walls closing in. Either this was some sick mistake, or I had just stepped into the opening act of a nightmare. I slipped the phone back into my purse, my fingers trembling. Through the chapel doors, I could hear the choir starting a hymn, voices layered with sorrow. My family sat in the pews, their heads bowed in grief, believing what I believed just minutes ago, that my husband lay in that casket at the front of the room. But the hotel's words clawed at my chest. He arrived 20 minutes ago, with a guest. I forced myself to walk back inside, careful not to draw attention. I slid into my seat at the edge of the pew, my daughter clutching my hand, her eyes swollen from crying. I couldn't breathe. The room spun with the sound of voices, the smell of flowers, the sight of that coffin. Was it empty? Who was I burying? After the service, relatives gathered around me, offering condolences, memories, casseroles for the coming week. I nodded. I smiled faintly. I hugged people, but none of it registered. My entire body was buzzing with one thought. I had to go to that hotel. When the last mourner finally left, I excused myself, claiming exhaustion. I got in my car, still dressed in black, and drove. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky with orange streaks, and I gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Rosewood Grand loomed ahead, glass windows glittering in the evening light. Luxury, elegance, secrecy. My heart pounded as I pulled up to the valet. Inside the lobby, the air was cool and perfumed with vanilla. The receptionist greeted me with a polished smile, clearly recognizing me. "Mrs. Carter, welcome back. Shall I send you up to the Imperial Suite? Your husband and his guest are already settled in." For a moment, I couldn't find my voice. My mouth was dry, my body stiff. But finally, the words scraped out of me. "Yes, take me to him." The elevator doors closed behind me with a soft chime, trapping me in mirrored walls. My reflection stared back. Pale skin, black dress, eyes wide and hollow. I looked like a widow, but inside me pulsed a storm that no funeral hymn could quiet. The numbers ticked upward. 22 floors, each one heavier than the last. By the time it stopped, my pulse was thundering in my ears. The hallway stretched in silence, plush carpet muffling my steps. At the far end, double doors gleamed with a golden plaque. Imperial Suite. I raised my hand to knock, but froze. Laughter spilled from inside. Male, deep, and unmistakably familiar. His laugh, my husband's laugh. I pressed my palm against the door, my whole body shaking. The sound of a woman giggling followed, high-pitched, intimate. Then came the pop of a champagne cork, liquid fizzing into glasses. Heat burned up my neck, flooding my face. I felt the sting of betrayal and disbelief fighting for space inside me. I had buried him. I had wept for him. And yet here he was, alive, drinking, laughing with someone else. I steadied myself, gripping the handle. My breath came shallow, fast. Every nerve in my body screamed to run, to tear the mask off this nightmare. Instead, I leaned closer, pressing my ear against the door. Her voice was muffled but clear enough. To us, to never being caught. Their glasses clinked, and in that moment the truth carved into me like ice. He hadn't died. He had staged everything, and I was about to find out why. My hand tightened on the door handle until my knuckles ached. 1,000 images raced through my mind. My husband lying cold in a coffin. My daughter sobbing into my shoulder. The crowd of mourners whispering condolences. All of it felt like a cruel play now, and I was the fool sitting front row. I turned the handle. The door clicked open and swung wide. The room was drenched in golden light, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline. On the velvet couch sat my husband, alive, whole, laughing, with a young woman curled beside him in a silk dress that shimmered like liquid gold. A bottle of champagne chilled in a bucket of ice. His laughter died the moment his eyes met mine. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered against the floor, spraying champagne across the rug. For a moment no one breathed. Then the woman bolted upright. "Who is she?" she demanded, eyes darting between us. I stepped inside, shutting the door behind me with deliberate calm, though inside my chest was burning. "I'm his wife," I said. My voice was low, steady, more dangerous than I intended. The wife who just buried him this afternoon. Her hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide with shock. But his face was something else. He didn't look ashamed. He looked cornered. "Clara," he said, rising slowly to his feet. His voice was calm, measured, like he was already calculating his next move. "You weren't supposed to know. Not yet." I could barely hear past the rush of blood in my ears. Not supposed to know what? My voice cracked as the words escaped. He exhaled, ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time I noticed his suit was new, expensive, tailored. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't grieving, he was thriving. "I had to disappear," he said finally. "You don't understand what I've been protecting you from." My knees threatened to give out, but I forced myself to stay standing. "Protecting me," I whispered, "by faking your death and parading around with her?" The silence that followed was heavier than any funeral prayer, and I knew this wasn't just betrayal. This was something bigger, something dangerous. My nails dug into my palms as I tried to keep control of my shaking hands. He stood just a few feet away, alive, breathing, looking at me like I was the one trespassing. "You're lying," I said, the words grinding out through my teeth. "You've always been a terrible liar, and I know when you're hiding something. Tell me the truth." The young woman shifted uneasily beside him, her silk dress slipping off one shoulder. She glanced at him nervously. "Maybe we should go," she whispered. He shot her a sharp look, the kind that said, "Be quiet." Then his eyes returned to me, heavy, calculating. "Clara, listen to me. Everything I've done, it's for us, for our family. There are people you don't understand, people who would destroy everything we have. Faking my death was the only way." I laughed, short, bitter, humorless. "For us? You staged a funeral. You let our daughter sob over your coffin. Do you know what that did to her? To me?" His jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. I stepped closer, my heels sinking into the plush rug. "Who is she?" I demanded, pointing at the woman who still clutched her champagne glass like a lifeline. She straightened, her chin lifting with sudden bravado. "I'm the reason he's still alive," she said. "Without me, he'd be dead already. So maybe you should be thanking me instead of glaring." The room spun. My hands curled into fists. I turned back to him. "You let me bury an empty casket. You let me believe I was a widow. And you expect me to swallow this, what? That you're some kind of hero hiding from invisible enemies?" For the first time, his voice cracked. "It's not invisible. It's real. And now that you've found me, you're in danger too." My heart lurched in my chest, but before I could respond, a sharp knock rattled the door. 3 quick bangs, urgent. All 3 of us froze. "Mr. Carter." A man's voice called from the hallway, low and commanding. "We need to talk. Now!" And suddenly I realized, whatever game he was playing, I had just walked into the middle of it. The knock came again, louder this time, rattling the frame. My husband's face drained of color. He moved quickly, pressing a finger to his lips, signaling me to stay silent. But I was done obeying him. "Who is that?" I hissed, my voice sharp, low, trembling with rage. He didn't answer. Instead, he motioned for the young woman to stay quiet and strode toward the door. The voice came again, firm, controlled. "Open the door, Mr. Carter. You know we can't wait." My stomach twisted. Whoever was on the other side of that door wasn't here for a friendly chat. When he hesitated, the knock turned into a pounding. The woman gasped and clutched his arm, whispering frantically, "Don't let them in." That was when I knew. This wasn't just an affair or some cowardly escape. He was in something much darker. I stepped forward, blocking his path. "Tell me what's going on right now." His eyes locked on mine, full of panic and frustration. "Clara, if you ever trusted me, trust me now. You need to leave. Walk out the back exit and forget you saw me." Forget? The words sliced through me. Forget the man I thought was dead? Forget the funeral? Forget the betrayal of watching him in a hotel suite with another woman? "Open this damn door, Carter!" the voice thundered, followed by the scrape of metal against the lock. They were trying to force their way in. I could hear my own breath, shallow and rapid. I had two choices: walk away like he wanted, or stay and face whatever storm was about to break through that door. My feet refused to move. The lock gave a sharp click. The handle turned, and the door swung open. The door slammed open with such force it hit the wall. Two men stepped inside, both dressed in tailored suits, their movements crisp and deliberate. They weren't guests. They weren't staff. Their presence filled the room with something colder. Control, danger. The taller one scanned the suite with sharp eyes before settling on my husband. "You're late," he said flatly. "We don't like late." My husband stiffened, his voice tight. "I told you I needed more time." The other man shut the door behind them, his gaze flicking to me, then to the young woman clutching the couch cushion like a shield. He smirked. Didn't know we'd have an audience. "Leave her out of this," my husband snapped, his voice breaking the air like glass. "She has nothing to do with it." I almost laughed. Nothing to do with it? After faking his death? Dragging our family through a funeral and hiding in this hotel with a mistress? I wanted to scream that I had everything to do with it, but something in the way those men moved, their calm precision, froze the words in my throat. The taller one stepped closer, his polished shoes silent on the carpet. "Mr. Carter, you signed an agreement. You don't disappear, you don't stall, and you certainly don't bring your wife here." My blood ran cold. Agreement? What agreement? My husband raised his hand slightly, a gesture of control. "She wasn't supposed to find me. This isn't what it looks like." The man's expression hardened. "Then fix it. Because if she walks out of here alive, it's because we let her." The young woman whimpered, pressing herself further into the couch. I felt my breath catch, my pulse hammering in my ears. Whatever life my husband had built in the shadows, it was collapsing, and now I was trapped in the middle of it. I looked at him, my voice low, raw. "What have you done?" He met my eyes, something desperate flickering in his expression. Then he whispered, barely audible, "I made a deal I can't break." The room felt like it was shrinking, the air thick with tension. The taller man reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black folder, tossing it onto the coffee table. Papers spilled out, contracts, signatures, numbers I couldn't make sense of. "Read it if you want," he said coldly. "But your husband already knows the terms, and he knows the cost of breaking them." My husband didn't move. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched at his sides. I stepped forward, my voice trembling but sharp. "What is this? What kind of deal did you make?" He finally looked at me, shame flickering across his face. "Clara, I owed them. Money. A lot of it. The only way out was to disappear. Let everyone think I was dead so they could clean the slate. But I didn't think you'd—" His voice broke. "I didn't think you'd find me. The taller man cut in. And now she has, which means your clean slate is gone. The younger one smirked, pacing towards me. Pretty wife, too. Shame to waste her. His eyes lingered on me in a way that made my stomach twist. My husband stepped between us, his voice cracking like thunder. Don't touch her. The taller man raised a hand, silencing the other. His eyes bored into me, cold and unblinking. Mrs. Carter, you weren't supposed to be part of this. But now you are, and your husband has a choice to make. He turned to face him. Either you finish what you promised, or she pays the price. The silence that followed was suffocating. My husband's face went pale, his hands shaking at his sides, and I realized whatever debt he owed, whatever deal he had struck, it was about to cost me everything. My husband's eyes darted between me and the men, sweat shining on his forehead. Don't hurt her, he begged. I'll do what you want. The taller man gave a thin smile. Good, because your time's up. He pulled a small envelope from his jacket and dropped it onto the table beside the contracts. Instructions. Complete it tonight. No delays, no excuses, or your wife leaves this hotel in a body bag. The younger one chuckled under his breath, as if the threat amused him. I stared at my husband, my voice barely holding steady. What are they making you do? He wouldn't meet my eyes. The taller man stepped toward the door, signaling the other to follow. You've got 12 hours, Carter. Don't test us. And just like that, they were gone. The door clicked shut, and silence fell like a weight over the room. I turned to him, my chest heaving. 12 hours for what? He sank onto the couch, face in his hands. Something I can't let you see. I stood over him, my hands shaking, my voice sharp with fury. No more lies. Tell me what they want. He looked up at me, eyes hollow. They want me to steal something. A transfer of money, offshore accounts. I was supposed to fake my death, vanish, and handle it from the shadows. But now, he swallowed hard, now they'll use you to keep me in line. The young woman finally spoke, her voice trembling. He thought disappearing would protect you, but he couldn't walk away clean. None of us can. I stared at them both, my chest aching. You let me bury an empty coffin, I whispered. You let our daughters think her father was dead. His eyes filled with tears, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen enough. I grabbed my purse, heading for the door. He reached for me, but I stepped back. No, you made your choices. Now I'll make mine. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt clarity. My life didn't have to be tied to his lies, his debts, his danger. I opened the door and walked out, leaving him with his mistress, his contracts, and the men who owned him. The hallway stretched before me like a lifeline, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. I wasn't a widow. I wasn't a wife. I was free.